Welcome to Sound of Resistance channel. Footsteps of Ukrainian army began to be heard in the south of the country. Ukrainian warriors are flocking towards Kherson. Mobility continues in Kherson, one of the most important strategic regions of Ukraine. After the Russian government's decision to withdraw Russian soldiers from Kherson, death lines prevailed in the city. The Russian government started the evacuation of the residents of the Kherson region located in the south of Ukraine in case of a possible attack by the Ukrainian army. In the evacuation process led by Russian commanders, it has been announced that 70,000 residents have been evacuated to safe areas by the Russian government so far. The Russian government was shocked by some news they received as the evacuation process of residents in Kherson continued. Officers in important positions in the Russian army began to announce their resignation one by one. In addition, the resigned Russian officers consist of soldiers who are actively serving in Kherson. The Russian commanders explained the reason for his resignation, that they had no reason to stay in Ukraine any longer, and that they had lost their faith in the successful conclusion of the ongoing Russian occupation in Ukraine. The Russian army faced a major loss of leadership in Kherson after the resignation of Russian officers. The Russian government must have realized the imminent danger and made a decision in Kherson that will change the course of the war. The Russian government announced that it will withdraw its troops from Kherson through the general who was at the head of the Russian army. The Russian general's statements fell on the agenda like a bomb. Some sources welcomed this decision of the Russian army, which lost its former power in Kherson. Some war commentators, on the other hand, commented on the developments in the region that the decision of the Russian army to withdraw Russian soldiers from Kherson was a shame for the Russian army, and the Russian government gave in to Ukraine. Officials of the Russian army, on the other hand, stated that the withdrawal of the Russian soldiers from Kherson was based on invalid reasons, that the aid routes to the region were blocked and that the Russian soldiers were in danger in this region. Russian officials underlined that the withdrawal in Kherson was carried out for compelling reasons. After the withdrawal of the Ukrainian army moved towards Kherson, Ukrainian officials added that they will continue their advance in Kherson but remain cautious against the Russian trap. Ukraine says it will deliver a huge blow to Putin's decadent army before winter. Viktor Kovalenko, a former Ukrainian army officer who fought against the Russians in the 2014 war, said that in the south the battlefield is advantageous for the Ukrainian army and that they actively exploit it. The recapture of the Kherson by Ukrainian forces will be a major blow for Putin, according to a former Ukrainian army officer. The city of Kherson, strategically important port city, is located on the west bank of Dnipro River and provides access to the Black Sea. At the end of August, the Ukrainian army confirmed that it had launched a counter-attack to liberate the Kherson province and its regional capital. The counter-offensive made steady progress as Kiev's commanders claimed they had recaptured 1,200 square kilometers of territory by October 9. Busy hours continue to be experienced in Kherson, located in the south of Ukraine. There has been growing speculations in recent days that Russia is on the verge of leaving the city and withdrawing its forces from the right of Dnipro. Viktor Kovalenko, a former Ukrainian army officer who fought against Russia in 2014 war, said that for Dnipro-Kiev, a primary objective was the liberation of the west bank of Dnipro River and the capture of Kherson. If Kiev managed to save the regional capital and province, the question arises that Crimea will be next and whether there will be a fall in Crimea in the next Ukrainian offensive. Mr. Kovalenko does not speak hopeful for Crimea. Kovalenko believes that the Ukrainian army is not yet capable of expelling the Russians from the peninsula. Taking back Kherson will not automatically mean that Crimea will be Kiev's next target, said Mr. Kovalenko. Kovalenko gave information about the latest situation in Crimea and gave advice to the Ukrainian army. The peninsula has been heavily militarized and its rescue requires many Ukrainian reserve brigades. The liberation of it requires a complex military and political solution. Level negotiations with the Kremlin can be difficult, Kovalenko said. The former army officer who participated in the Battle of Debaltsev in 2015 said he believed the Ukrainian warriors would not give up fighting through the winter, arguing that the Ukrainian army will try to gain its advantage over the demoralized and mismanaged Russian army. I think the most realistic scenario is that Ukraine will not stop its pressure, its active counter-offensive until spring. Kovalenko added the Ukrainian armed forces are already warmed up, motivated and have the best moral and good materials after the successes on the battlefield in September. Therefore, even winter will not slow down the Ukrainians. He also pointed out that the Ukrainian army has winter combat experience from the 2014 conflict. and that frozen ground facilitates the movement of heavy armored vehicles. Kovalenko predicted that after the recapture of Kherson, the focus of military action will turn east, and the next main objective in the next 6 months will be the liberation of Donbas. As Russian leader Putin withdraws his troops from Kherson, he ordered new equipment for the Russian army in response to those who thought the war was over. Putin orders dozens of terrifying hypersonic 6,700 miles nuclear-capable Zircon missiles. Russia is adding new ones to its terrible arsenal of destructive weapons that can increase tension with the rise of the West. Vladimir Putin has allegedly ordered dozens of terrifying hypersonic Zircon nuclear-capable missiles capable of traveling at eye-watering speeds of 6,700 miles. It is reported that the March 9 weapon known as Zircon in Russia could enter service before the end of this year. Putin continues to spend huge sums on the development of new nuclear capabilities missiles, which he claims are unstoppable by Western air defense. The new order for Zircon nuclear capabilities missiles has not been officially announced. A source close to the Russian Ministry of Defense said, the first contract for the production of a batch of Zircon was signed in the summer of 2021. An additional contract was signed this fall. The source added that the latest contract will see the delivery of several dozen Zircon 6,670 miles missiles in 2023. The missile, which appears to have been fired from the Admiral Gorshkov warship, has undergone several rigorous tests. Earlier this year, a ship-fired missile in the Barents Sea hit a target more than 600 miles away in the White Sea. About a year ago, Putin announced the launch of a flaveless salvo featuring Zircon. In January, Deputy Defense Minister Alexei Krivoruchko said, state tests of the Zircon sea-based hypersonic cruise missiles are near completion. Serial deliveries will begin from 2022, he said. The President of Russia boasted of our newest missiles fired from sea at naval and land targets. The tests were carried out successfully and flaveless. This is a big event for our country, an important step towards improving Russia's security, increasing our defense capability, said the Russian president. Putin also said it was in mass production and described the weapons as truly unique in the world. The TV channel of the Russian Ministry of Defense said, the speed of the Zircon hypersonic missile is so high that it prevents to open it from detecting the effect of the air defense system in time. In fact, its launch will be known after the target has been hit. Regarding the missiles ordered, Igor Korkmal, captain of the Admiral Gorshkov frigate, said, no one will see the missile launch or fly. They will only see it when the missile hits the target. A surface target, a coastal target. I don't think there will be anything to counter it in the next few years, he said. The launch of the dreaded new and devastating missiles came as Putin came under great pressure over Russia's continued humiliating collapse during the Ukraine war. Russian troops suffered numerous devastating losses on the battlefield and were pushed back from key areas by Ukrainians' heroes' counterattack operations. Russian leader Putin will perhaps be the last trump card of the ordered missiles in the invasion of Ukraine. It has been a matter of curiosity how impressive Putin's latest move will be in Ukraine. Time will tell whether a single weapon can change the course of war. As the Ukrainian army gradually regains its dominance in the Russian-occupied territories, we will see together whether there is a weapon capable of stopping the notorious Ukrainian warriors. Thank you for watching us.